Welcome back, guys. Today's video is all about how to cover acne. This is a full coverage foundation routine, and I thought that this would be the perfect time to do this video because I've been suffering with very bad acne lately. Now I know you guys are gonna be like, no you don't have acne, but that's what you guys think because I cover it. So in this video, I'm gonna show you guys all my tips, everything I do to cover my acne, to make my skin look as great as it can be. I hope you guys found this helpful. Let's start with the before. Let me show you guys the acne that I've been getting recently. You could see that a lot of it's concentrated around my chin and jawline. Usually when you have acne in this area, it is caused because of stress, because of hormones. You could see that they're really large, deep, more cystic acne, and these are the ones that can be very hard to cover. So this is what we're gonna focus on. This is the before, and I'm gonna show you guys how I basically just cover them up and no one can really tell, which is really good for your confidence. So when you could go out and you're talking to people, you're not sitting there thinking, can they see my acne? So the first thing is you want to start with hydrated, moisturized skin. So make sure you apply your moisturizer before you do anything. And if you are getting a lot of acne breakouts, I do recommend an oil-free moisturizer. Oil-free is key so it doesn't cause any other breakouts on your skin. I've already applied my moisturizer, but I am gonna take a little bit of the MAC Fix Plus just to refresh my skin. This is one of my favorite ways to just add a burst of hydration. All right, our skin is prepped. If you are gonna use a primer, make sure it's an oil-free primer. Try to stick with oil-free products as much as possible when you are having a lot of acne breakouts. First up is full coverage concealer. Before we apply foundation, we're going to apply a full coverage concealer. This is really gonna help cover up all of the discoloration, which is really the main thing. A lot of times if you have heavy acne, it tends to be really red and like very bright red and very noticeable. So a full coverage concealer is going to conceal that, and then you don't have to use as much foundation as well. Full coverage concealer is definitely different than regular concealer. It has a lot more coverage, as it's called, and I'm gonna show you guys 4 of my favorites. The first one is IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye Full Coverage Anti-Aging Waterproof Concealer. This one is great because it is also waterproof, so you don't have to worry about it coming off. If it's like summertime and the weather's really hot, this is gonna stay all day. The second one is the Lancome Ultra Wear High Coverage Concealer. The third one is a drugstore favorite. I love this one because not only does it work great, it is a great price and you're getting a ton in the tube. This is the NYX Gotcha Covered Waterproof Concealer. And my last favorite is the Laura Mercier Secret Concealer. This is a great full coverage concealer that can work for covering acne. And if you have really dark circles, this works for under your eyes as well. I'll be using the NYX Gotcha Cover today because honestly, this is one of my favorite ones. When you're using these full coverage concealers, a little bit goes a long way. You do not need to use a lot of product. That's why I actually like to use a brush. If you use your finger, you're most likely going to apply too much. All you wanna do is just apply a tiny bit with your brush, and then with your finger or your beauty blender, press the product in. So you can see it looks really natural. You want to pick a color that pretty much matches your skin tone. You don't want to go darker or lighter. You want something that matches exactly. Another reason you want to make sure that your skin is properly moisturized is because these full coverage concealers are usually a little bit on the drier side. So if your skin isn't really well hydrated, texture of the concealer is going to show up, which we don't want. So I'm just going around and applying this over all of the major acne areas that I have. And then again, you can either use your finger to blend it out or use a beauty blender. Keep in mind that when you are blending it out, you want to use very, very little pressure. You don't want to actually remove the product. You're just trying to soften it so it doesn't look like just product in that one spot. You just want to look like it's blended. And if you get the right concealer that matches your skin tone perfectly, it will totally look invisible and you won't be able to see anything, which is exactly what we want. And this is only step one. So by the time you're done the whole look, it's really gonna be covered very well. Make sure your beauty blender is wet. This is gonna help blend the product a lot better. So this is how it should look with the full coverage concealer. You could see that we really got rid of that discoloration. We covered a lot of the spots, and now it's time to move on to foundation. When you're picking a foundation to cover up acne, I recommend two things. Number one, you want to pick a full coverage foundation. Of course, we want to be able to cover everything. And number two, you want a matte foundation. A matte texture is really going to make sure that you get the coverage you need. Plus, it's going to be less oily, so you don't have to worry about the oils from the foundation causing more breakouts. The one that I'll be using today is one of my favorite full coverage foundations. It is the Maybelline Superstay 24-Hour Full Coverage Foundation. When I'm applying foundation to cover up acne, I really recommend using a sponge like a beauty blender rather than using a brush. The beauty blender makes it really easy to press the product on, to pack it on, in a very natural way, whereas a brush, it can actually kind of remove the makeup. You could take off the concealer when you're applying the foundation, so the brush is not as easy to use. I like to apply the foundation on the back of my hand, and then I take my beauty blender and I dip it in. You want to apply it and blend as well without it looking heavy or cakey. That's definitely not what we're going for. We just want to cover without creating texture. Making sure that your beauty blender is really nice and damp is going to help blend the foundation a lot better, and it's going to just make it look very natural, which is always the goal. You guys know I like to keep it natural as possible. Because we already applied the full coverage concealer, we're not going to need nearly as much foundation, so it's not going to look cakey at all. And then once you apply it in the main areas that need the extra coverage, then you can go and do the rest of your foundation routine as you normally would. This is now the coverage with the full coverage foundation as well. You can see that it's pretty much covered everything, but it still looks really natural and the skin looks nice and fresh. And now it is time to set. Setting the foundation and the concealer with powder is very important to make sure that it stays on, it doesn't budge, and it's also going to make it look very matte, so it will not reflect the light, so it's going to really flatten the texture, which is what we want to make it look as invisible as possible. You can use either a pressed powder or a loose powder. It's totally up to you. They both work great. I'll be using a loose powder today. This one is the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Finishing Powder. Before I apply the powder, I'm going to use a regular concealer just to brighten up my eye area, and then we'll finish up this look. To set with powder, you can use either a brush or a puff. They both work great. A little bit goes a long way, just like the other products. So I'm using whatever is pretty much in the lid of the packaging. Just want to press the product on that area. It's the same idea. The product might go on a little bit heavier with the puff, but it's super easy to just blend away. And you guys could see how it's like mattifying everything, which is great. So it's not gonna pick up that light and it's gonna really minimize the texture. So this is the after of the full coverage foundation routine to cover up acne. You can see that we pretty much covered everything. The skin looks really, really natural. The key is to cover up, but not create a lot of texture, which is exactly what we did. So once you're done the look, you could just finish up your makeup routine with a little bit of bronzer, blush. And when I have a lot of acne, I usually try to keep the highlighter to a minimum because highlighter can really make texture stand out. So if you have a lot of texture from acne, acne, the highlighter can make it worse. So try to keep highlighter to a minimum, but everything else, feel free. And that is it. I really hope you guys found this video helpful. Make sure you leave me a comment if you have any questions. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're new. Add me on Instagram at Eman if you haven't already, and good luck trying this out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in another video very soon. Bye.